All right, here is my commentary on three diagrams that you'll see when you take the water cycle quiz. You'll see this picture, and this picture. So I thought I would offer some commentary. What you need to know about this picture, let's say, is that this is evaporation. We're talking the water cycle. This should be review for you. Evaporation, and then it condenses, um, and then it precipitates, and then there's runoff. Runoff is not, we don't really go over that, but that's what that is. And I guess this would be like groundwater and stuff. But the basic idea is evaporation, condensation, precipitation. Now, looking at this one, this diagram is kind of what I refer to as like rain shadow. And what happens is warm, moist air from the ocean comes in and it gets pushed up by this mountain into colder air. This is called the windward side, and this is the leeward side. Windward, leeward. And so C is higher altitude. Generally, as you go higher in altitude, you get colder air until you get to a certain point. Then it becomes, but we're talking way up, like into space. It starts getting hotter because you get exposed to direct sunlight without the atmosphere shielding it. But anyways, so this warm, moist air gets pushed up, and as it gets forced by the mountain into higher altitude, it gets colder. So it condenses and rains. So right here on this side of the mountain, you'd get a bunch of rain and therefore a bunch of runoff. So everything over here in A, this whole mountainside is going to be greener because of all the water. And then therefore there's going to be more bugs and more life. In general, there's going to be more animals, the whole food chain, the food web from top to bottom is going to be more robust on this side than on that side, because once the air gets pushed up and it wrung out like a washcloth full of water, it crosses over to this side and it's pretty much dry by then. So D, this side would tend to be more like the desert. And you can actually see this in aerial photographs of islands where the wind comes from one general direction. One side of the island will end up being very lush and green, and the other side will be not so. It'll be more like a desert. You can even see it in Oregon. You can see, to the west of the mountain range that goes up and down, I don't know what it's called, the Cascades or whatever. It's all green on that side, but eastern Oregon is more of a desert, and that's generally because the moisture has been squeezed out of the air on the leeward side. Same thing here, only instead of a mountain, we've got an air mass. This air mass is cold and therefore more dense air, so there's more molecules per square inch or cubic meter or however you want to express it. There's the molecules are tightly packed together, so it's heavier and it hugs the ground and is generally shaped like this. And it pushes, because of its density, it pushes around the warm, less dense air. This less dense air gets shoved out of the way, and so this can move in and force the warm, moist air. And by the way, I should make the comment that warm air can hold more moisture than cold air. So this warm air has moisture in it, and when it gets pushed up by this moving mass of air as it comes in, it forces the air at sea to, rise up and get into colder atmosphere or temperature. And therefore, it will wring out the moisture, so it'll start raining. And you can kind of imagine, a pattern that you've probably noticed before is, the temperature changes. That's because like if your city's right here and a cold front moves in, this would be called a cold front, and pushes, now you're kind of cold, and then it starts to rain. Generally speaking, that's, all situations are unique, but that's the general pattern that you'll see is this sort of thing. All right, so those are the three diagrams that you need to know for this quiz. Good luck.